Here it is, because I get quick downloads. God is the one, right? Here's how the whole thing works. This is why when you're born, out of 0, you become 1, which is the baseline. It's the frequency of the middle path. And then you go through duality. Duality is sin. It means sine waves. It means up and down. So when you're born, you come out of the womb and you start experiencing reality in a very how to explain it. You're getting a little bit of your mother, a little bit of your father, and it's a wave like this and that, and then all of a sudden you're old enough to go to school, and this is why you remember something. Remember. Memory is meminori, water and light. You go to school and you get a dose of dose is docio. It's to divide something. You get division, so you can see through division. You can see through the mirror. You could look in a mirror. When you're born until the time you're 5, you don't. When do you ever look in a mirror? Let me try to explain it in a couple ways here if I can. And I was going to make this a short video, and I'm going to get back to the mirror. But you start to remember something when you're 5. Phi. It's the Phi cycle. Phi is when you go to kindergarten. Kinder is when you're kindling, when you start a fire. The fire is what reflects light, or what is light. So you become kindling. You start to create a fire at 5. Phi. 5 limbs, fire. Okay. When you are born, and you're born at 0, right? Because you come out the womb, but you don't know anything until you're 5. And you go to school, and you say, like, there's a bunch of other children here that are on fire too. On fire to experience the world, but you're repressed and compressed into learning a system. Now, you could learn a different system somewhere else, but I'm not getting into all that part. And they taught you about time, held you and pulled you and extracted and bow and arrow style. You're gonna have to look at a lot of my other videos. So the way that the timeline, they call it a timeline. It's a line of the time, and once you flip time around, you get to emit. Time becomes EMIT. You emit time after you understand what time is. Understand, overstand time. Understanding, overstanding, and understanding. So understanding is the God thing. Understanding means a 1. Understanding means the sine wave beneath. Overstanding means the sine wave above. So once you sin, which means you start to experience duality, you didn't experience duality until you looked in a mirror, or you went to kindergarten and seen a bounty of other children or kids that looked kind of like you. And all of a sudden, there's your memories. You have a mammon, or you have water and light around you that surround you in the same way. Before that, you were kept within your familia, your family, familiar. And they pulled you out of familiar and turned you into a dualistic system. And the dualistic system put you in a duel. Duel is fight. Fight is fire. When did you start to duel? You started to duel in 5th, like right there. So, and we can get into the 5th dimension and all this. Right there, you went to kindergarten. Fire becomes the thing that it brought you to life. So, here you go. You're walking down this path. It's very straight and narrow. You would have been God forever, but you would have never known who you were without a little bit of sign or sin. Without moon. Moon is nanar sin. So the sin created the capacity for you to know light and dark. Because do you remember as a child, like from 0 to 5, do you remember nighttime? No, you don't. All you remember is waking up and there was either a breast or for milk, which is Martin Luther King, which is MLK, which is Moloch, which is, you came out of the darkness and right there again, you wake up, you're crying and you need milk. And then you get thrown into the fire. You go from milk to fire. And I'm trying to throw a bunch of different symbology and imagery and the one. Walk down that path. And then you jump up or you dip down. Mario Brothers. And what you see is that within that system, you don't know, understand, overstand, comprehend anything until you jump into a system that gives you a dualistic nature. Well, the way it works in this reality is they give you an overstanding. You get stood over all day long. People are bigger than you. You go to school. You go to your teacher and your preacher, your parents, your pair of aunts that were standing over you and looking down upon you, and they smushed you. And you became physical. The first time you were physical, literally, think about this. The first time you were physical was when you were probably 5 years old. Because from 1 to 4, no one has any system of reference to what they were. You don't know. And this gets into all my other games that we get to play about the numerology system and how many cycles around the center of the North Pole that the sun and the moon go, and how you know nothing. So wouldn't your birth date actually be your first memory? My first memory is in kindergarten, right? It could have happened a different way because our cultures, and I'm not suggesting that schooling is a good thing. I'm just saying it occurs no matter what culture you're in. But in the Americanized, and American isn't right, that's not the right word, but you find this place where off of the straight and narrow path you start to sin. This is where you remember your parents saying, hey, why did you didn't get an A on the test, you got an F. This is when you, well, we're going to let you go do this, and you didn't go and do the thing that your parents or your teacher expected or hoped for. And so you're walking down this narrow, straight path. And if you kept doing that, you would never have any experience. Experience is the word X peer, right? If you peer into something through an X, it's to cross something. When you cross something, you become Jesus. When you cross something, it's a corridor. It's a corner. Corner means death. It's a corridor. It's a cornea. It's a cornucopia. To see something and to see all of the colors. So at 5, at the Phi cycle, at the cycle that you became actually awareness, you're like, could you tell somebody like, hey, remember when we were all 3 years old? Yeah, you can say that, but you weren't even aware of that. At 4 years old, you're aware of nothing. There's no reference. You can't say that you experienced shitting in your diaper. You can't say you experienced that because you didn't shit in your diaper because you weren't alive, because you have no memory and you have no experience to give you the crossing of understanding and overstanding the duality of the sine wave of nature. Well, and in fact, hold on, let me just dip into the little turn here. Sine waves don't happen in nature because sines and sins have to do with up and down. Nature happens in multiple directions. Up and down in a sine wave is it goes up and down. But if you look in front of you, there's no up and down. There's left and right. And there's also, there's the 45-degree angles and there's those things. But what you'll see is there's a giant, like, whew, there's all of, and it's not even 360 degrees because that's silly because that makes a circle. And you realize there's depth to things. There's left and right. There's up and down. There's northeast and southwest. And then you realize there's something in the between there. And then you'll, okay, well, I got to use colors. So what I'm trying to explain here is, let me paint a picture. And I want to paint a picture, and I'll put some colors here and some shape there, but it's still on a two-dimensional plane. And so you never experience until you're in a physical world. Well, you came in the physical world. As far as you were told, you were born, let's say, let's use this example here because I like to play these fun games. They say the spirit comes into the body according to a lot of cosmologies and Mayan processes of thought, and that about how many months. Somebody, you can comment below. There's a number of months when the mother was impregnated that the spirit is said to have entered the body. But the spirit, if it entered the body, why didn't it know how to do anything until 5 years old? So there's a really confusing thing there. Spirit is like rah rah rah, shish boom ba, rah rah rah. Who's rah? Cheerleading all this. So find this one. So I'm trying to show it to you in the last video I did was on the 0, 1, 2. So 1 is the straight line, 2 is the wave around it. There's the 1 and the 2. Started with a point, then it went to God, the straight line, and then you got a little bored of just following the path, so you jumped off it because it'd be more exciting. The exiting the narrow path to find dual systems, but in nature it's not dual. Remember this, it actually happens in multifaceted, but because people explain this, an X-plane is to take an X and a T are the same thing, put it on a plane, flatten it out. So we're going to flatten the plane out, give you an X or a T, which crosses something. A cross is death. Death is what Jesus, that's what he is. He wore a cross because his cross is the sins of man, and the sins means the duality of man. Because, but why do they always say man? Why don't they say woman? I'm not gonna go too far with this, but this was just a little like 3 minute and 30. See, if I say 3 minutes and 33 seconds, everybody's like, "Oh my God, he's a Mason!" And so I just made it longer. So now it's going to be a 4 minute and 12 second video. Is that right? No, I think it's a little less than that. Let's see. I don't know, but hope you enjoyed. Cheers, y'all.